Making headlines this hour, the president reiterates his commitment to addressing the difficulties faced by students in obtaining US dollars at the official bank rate. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz reveals that the government has plans to widen the Cool Classroom project to cover school halls. And funds collected from this year's Zakat al-Fitr have been utilized to provide essential food aid to the residents of Gaza.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome to PSM News in English. I'm your host Ahmad Imad and I'll be continuing with the details for the latest stories. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz expresses strong confidence in the effectiveness of the Debt Sustainability Support Service DSSS in addressing the urgent climate financing needs of small island developing states SIDS such as the Maldives.
The president made these remarks while delivering the opening address as co-chair of the Strategic Advisory Group of SIDS. He added that the operationalization of the DSSS will undoubtedly serve as a catalyst for a new era of sustainable development across SIDS. In his statement, President Dr. Muiz highlighted that a significant proportion of SIDS is either already experiencing or are on the brink of debt distress, all while grappling with urgent climate financing needs. He emphasized that achieving debt sustainability is crucial for realizing the resilient development aspirations set out in the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS, ABAS. In this regard, he underscored the urgency of operationalizing the DSSS without delay. The president reiterated that resolving debt issues is key not only to achieving sustainable development in SIDS, but also to tackling the interlinked challenges of climate change, environmental degradation, and pollution. The president further noted that shifting geopolitical dynamics underscore the need for multi-stakeholder, multilateral solutions to development challenges. This, he said, is why the Maldives has proposed a debt relief for resilience building mechanism which rewards countries investing in resilience by offering debt relief. As such, the president advocated for a country-led approach that takes into account the unique circumstances and sensitivities of each nation. He explained that such an instrument aims to create fiscal space for investment in sustainable development by linking debt relief to resilience-building milestones. In his closing remarks, the president described the upcoming 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, FFD4, as a golden opportunity to promote and garner global recognition for the DSSS as a critical tool for ensuring debt sustainability in SIDS. While the initiative has already received acknowledgement from many nations, he emphasized that international cooperation and participation are essential to scaling up the implementation of innovative debt mechanisms and concessional finance. The president concluded by stating that debt sustainability is not merely a matter of figure, but is about protecting lives, safeguarding livelihoods, and securing a collective future. Small island developing states, SIDS, are a distinct group comprising 38 United Nations UN member states and 20 non-UN members or associate members of UN regional commissions. The Maldives co-chairs the Strategic Advisory Group alongside Antigua and Barbuda.
President Dr. Mohammad Muiz reiterates his commitment to addressing the difficulties faced by students under the government loan scheme in obtaining US dollars at the official bank rate. Speaking during the 3rd episode of the Raitu Nayaku podcast, hosted by the President's office, President Dr. Muiz noted that during his overseas visits, he has consistently met with Maldivian students studying abroad. He said a common concern raised by those benefiting from the government's student loan scheme is the ongoing challenge of acquiring US dollars at the bank rate. To alleviate these difficulties, the President stated that he has instructed the Minister of Finance to develop a practical solution. He added that work is already underway in consultation with the Governor of the Maldives Monetary Authority MMA. He assured that students enrolled in overseas education under the government loan scheme would be provided with access to US dollars at the bank rate. However, he emphasized that any measures introduced would be carefully designed to avoid adverse impacts on the local market. The President also highlighted that the allocated funds must be utilized in the country where the student is undertaking their studies. The government is placing particular emphasis on supporting students pursuing higher education abroad through both loan schemes and scholarship programs. Currently, more than 1,600 Maldivian students are studying overseas under the government's loan scheme. President Dr. Mohammad Moiz reveals that the government has plans to widen the Cool Classroom project to cover school halls. The government has initiated efforts to equip all schools in the country with climate control systems powered by renewable energy by the end of September. The initiative will air condition over 3,700 classrooms across the country. Speaking during the third episode of the Raitu Nayaku podcast, hosted by the President's office, President Dr. Moiz assured that the project will be completed by the end of the year. Despite not being included in the original plan, the government has now decided to widen the project to air-conditioned school halls in addition to the classrooms. Though this plan is not included in the original project, the President assured that it will also be completed by the end of the year, adding that the initiative will be powered by renewable energy. Funds collected from this year's Zakatul Fitr have been utilized to provide essential food aid to the residents of Gaza in Palestine. The Ministry of Islamic Affairs allocated a portion of the approximately $862,714 collected in Zakat this year to aid those in need in Gaza.
Dr. Muhammad Shahim Ali Saeed, the Minister of Islamic Affairs, confirmed that the food provisions funded by the Zakat entrusted to the Zakat House by Maldivian citizens have reached families in Gaza suffering from hunger. This initiative, which delivered approximately $32,418 worth of food supplies, was facilitated with the assistance of the ISRA Association. This marks the second instance of aid being provided to Gaza through Zakat funds, with the first being a $100,000 contribution last year. These earlier funds were allocated towards a Qatar Red Crescent Society project focused on providing clean drinking water for the people of Gaza. The recent aid arrives against a backdrop of a volatile security situation in Gaza. Following attacks initiated by Israelis on the 7th of October 2023, which Palestinians and the Muslim world described as a campaign of genocide, a ceasefire agreement was established on the 19th of January this year between the ruling Hamas faction in Gaza and Israel after 15 months of conflict. During the subsequent 2-month lull in hostilities, food and aid supplies began to enter Gaza. However, this period was short-lived, as Israeli forces resumed restrictions on the entry of goods into Gaza approximately 6 weeks prior, leading to a renewed intensification of attacks in violation of the ceasefire agreement. Gaza, a densely populated city with 2.3 million inhabitants, has been severely impacted by the disruption of essential supplies. The food provisions that entered during the brief ceasefire have now been depleted, exacerbating the humanitarian crisis.
Nepal pledges to broaden the scope of medical education and training for students from the Maldives, with plans to increase access to its Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery, MBBS programs, and related training opportunities. The announcement follows discussions between Khadija Abdussamad Abdullah, the Maldivian Minister of State for Health, and Pradeep Paudel, Nepal's Minister of Health and Population. The talks took place in New York on the sidelines of the 58th session of the Commission on Population and Development, CPD. According to the Maldivian Health Ministry, the discussions highlighted expanding pathways for Maldivian medical professionals to pursue postgraduate specializations and subspecializations in Nepal. The two officials, according to the ministry, also reviewed an existing Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, and explored the potential for additional agreements to deepen the partnership. Nepal has become a pivotal hub for Maldivian students seeking medical education, with institutions such as Tribhuvan University and the National Academy of Medical Sciences, NAMS, hosting numerous students over the years. Recognizing the shared benefits of educational exchange, Minister Paudel reaffirmed Nepal's commitment to enhancing opportunities for Maldivian doctors to advance their skills. Additionally, the talks highlighted Nepal and the Maldives' history of collaboration in medical education, with previous MOUs facilitating placements for Maldivian postgraduate students. Both sides expressed mutual interest in further strengthening these ties, according to government sources. In a separate engagement, Abdullah Nazim Ibrahim, the Minister of Health for the Maldives, participated in discussions with his Philippine counterpart during the World Patient Safety Summit held in the Philippines from 3rd to 4th April. Addressing the challenges faced by Maldivian doctors in securing local internship opportunities, the Philippines Health Minister extended support and expressed willingness to facilitate further specialization pathways for Maldivian medical professionals. Top officials from the Ministry of Higher Education and related fields have attended the Global Government Summit, Shaping the Future of Social Innovation, a high-level forum convening government leaders from across the globe. The summit, held in Luxembourg, aims to foster discussions on enhancing governmental efficiency and boosting social productivity among participating nations. The Maldivian delegation includes Dr. Ali Haidar Ahmad, the Minister of Higher Education, Labour and Skills Development, and Dr. Abdullah Nazir, the State Minister for Higher Education. The summit serves as a platform for government representatives to exchange insights and explore collaborative efforts to improve state administration. This year's summit is centered on critical themes, including the challenges faced in government administration, strategies for increasing governmental efficiency, and the advancement of social productivity. Participants are expected to deliberate on actionable steps that can be taken to optimize the functioning of state institutions. Adding to the Maldives' involvement, Minister Haidar Ahmad is slated to deliver a keynote address representing the nation. His speech, the Higher Education Ministry said, will focus on national policy and its intersection with social productivity, offering the Maldives' perspective on these crucial areas. Spanning 9th to 11th April, the summit will convene discussions on utilizing social innovation to advance global transitions, establishing legal frameworks to recognize innovation, and fostering public-private partnerships to expand impactful solutions. Maldives Airports Company Limited (MACL) initiates the redevelopment of the former runway at Velana International Airport (VIA), marking a pivotal step in its effort to elevate safety protocols, enhance operational security, and optimize efficiency.
The project, undertaken by China's Beijing Urban Construction Group BUCG, forms a critical component of the 20-year Airport Development Master Plan championed by President Dr. Mohammad Muiz. This agreement was formalized on October 24, 2024. This redevelopment exemplifies the government's steadfast commitment to modernizing the nation's primary international gateway. Speaking at a ceremony at Hurule Island Hotel to commemorate the project's launch, Ibrahim Sharif Muhammad, the managing director of MACL, underscored President Dr. Mohammad Muiz's decisive leadership in advancing this strategic initiative. The runway, originally spanning 3,200 meters, ceased operations in 2022 following the inauguration of the new Code F runway and has since served as a taxiway. Under the current redevelopment plans, the strip is poised to become a critical backup, according to Muhammad, capable of functioning as an emergency runway. He highlighted that this enhancement will fortify the airport's safety and security measures. Beyond bolstering emergency preparedness, the redevelopment is expected to streamline daily operations. The enhanced runway, Mohammad said, will reduce the average turnaround time for commercial airlines by approximately 20 minutes. This operational efficiency is projected to elevate passenger experience while supporting the airport's expanding capacity. Additional infrastructure developments are set to amplify the airport's operational capacity, with the completion of the Taxiway Charlie project playing a vital role. Mohammad noted that this expansion will further reduce flight turnaround times, expediting services to meet growing demand. Reflecting on MACL's collaboration with BUCG, Mohammed expressed confidence in the timely and efficient execution of this project, citing the partners' track record of successful project delivery. This prior successful collaboration, he added, instills confidence in the timely and effective completion of this vital runway redevelopment.
European Central Bank ECB policymaker Francois Villeroy-de-Galhau says US President Donald Trump's policies in recent weeks have eroded confidence in the US dollar.
Speaking on France Interradio, Villeroy, who is also head of the Bank of France, said protectionism and unpredictability of the Trump administration were bad elements for the U.S. economy. On April 9th, Trump said he would temporarily lower the hefty duties he had just imposed on dozens of countries while further ramping up pressure on China, sending global stocks rocketing higher. Villeroy said the big element of constancy in U.S. policy of the past decades is the attachment to the central role of the dollar. He said that he believes the Trump administration also has that view, but it is very incoherent in the way it practices that. According to him, what has happened in recent days and weeks plays against the confidence in the U.S. currency. He added that this can be a positive factor in the development of the international role of the euro. Villeroy also reaffirmed he did not expect a recession in France. On April 9th, French Finance Minister Eric Lombard trimmed France's 2025 economic growth forecast to 0.7% from 0.9% earlier.
US President Donald Trump says that he does not want US Steel Corp to go to Japan, suggesting he no longer supports Nippon Steel's bid for the American steel producer.
On April 7th, Trump directed a national security panel to take a fresh look at Nippon Steel's $14 billion bid for U.S. Steel to help determine if further action is appropriate, raising hopes the deal could gain an elusive green light. Shares of U.S. Steel fell 13% after the comment in trading after the market closed.
Because China was dumping massive amounts of steel in my first term, and I put tariffs on it. I saved the steel industry, but now it's going to thrive. Maybe like never before. I mean, if you go back to U.S. Steel from 90 years ago, it's incredible. It was the #1 company in the world for a long time. That's why we don't want to see it go to Japan. And we love Japan, but U.S. Steel is a very special company. We don't want it to go to Japan or any other place. So we're working with them, and, I don't know if they need any money now. I'll be honest with you, they hit gold.
U.S. Steel and Nippon Steel did not immediately respond to requests for comment.
Lebanon's Hezbollah group says it is ready to enter into talks with the Lebanese government on a national defense strategy.
The prospect of talks aimed at securing Hezbollah's disarmament, unimaginable when it was at the zenith of its power just 2 years ago, underlines dramatic shifts in the Middle East power balance since Israel pummeled the Iran-backed group in a devastating conflict triggered by the Gaza war. U.S.-backed President Joseph Aoun, who vowed when he took office in January to establish a state monopoly on the control of arms, intends to open talks with Hezbollah over its arsenal soon, 3 Lebanese political sources said. In a press conference at the parliament on Thursday, Hezbollah MP Hassan Fadlallah also denied allegations that the armed group is smuggling weapons through Beirut port. Hezbollah emerged severely weakened from the 2024 conflict with Israel when its top leaders and thousands of its fighters were killed and much of its rocket arsenal were destroyed. The blow was compounded when its ally, Bashar al-Assad, was toppled from power in Syria, cutting its supply lines from Iran.
The Los Angeles 2028 Olympics will feature an increase in women's soccer teams from 12 to 16, while the men's competition will be downsized from 16 to a dozen teams, as per the International Olympic Committee.
The IOC said the reason for the change was the rapidly growing popularity of women's team sports, especially in the United States, and that change in the competition format reflected that rapid growth.
And it's obviously quite a significant and very progressive move, done very much in dialogue with Los Angeles and, of course, with FIFA. I have to say FIFA has been a great partner in the Olympic football tournaments, and this is a sign of that partnership. Again, I think when you look at the incredible popularity of football generally around the world, and within this is the incredible growth of popularity of the women's game, in many ways reflecting the growth of popularity of women's sport generally and women's team sport that we've seen across a number of the Olympic sports over recent games as well. Here, the discussions were around containing the overall athlete numbers, using the same number of venues. And the discussion came up about, was there something innovative we could do to reflect that growth in the women's game, in women's football, and equally with the US being in some ways the home of the highest levels of popularity for women's football. It really opened that discussion between FIFA, LA and ourselves. So that was fully supported on our side, but done very much in partnership with FIFA and with LA 28, and we think it'll be an incredible success.
He said the IOC had discussed the issue with both LA Games organizers and World Soccer's governing body, FIFA, before going through with the changes. The total number of players, men's and women's, would not change. The United States, who will also host the 2026 Men's and the 2031 Women's World Cup, have won 5 Olympic gold medals in the women's competition. The men's team use mostly under-23 players at Olympic Games.
A space probe is preparing for launch into Earth's orbit this month to map the carbon content of tropical forests in some of the world's most remote areas. A new radar scanner will be attached to the Biomass space probe, and after its planned launch on April 29th, will orbit the Earth for several years, collecting data on the densest rainforests across Africa, Asia, and South America. The scanner will use interferometry technology to gather data on carbon storage in the forests, with the goal to improve understanding of the carbon cycle flow and measure the effects of deforestation and climate change.
We care about the forest. The forest is the lung of our planet, and what we are particularly interested in is to get information on the flow of the carbon cycle flow. So what we want to measure is how much of the fossil fuel that is burned and produces CO2, how much of that goes into the forests and stays there and is captured. And we do several maps over the years in order to see the changes. That is the main goal of the mission.
The probe's instruments are designed to measure carbon levels accurately, even through dense forest canopies.
When you fly with an optical instrument over the forest, you only see the leaves. What we are interested in is how much wood, you can also say how much carbon is stored there. And that is not an easy thing to do. You need to get the volume basically of the trees. And with what we do, we have a radar instrument that can penetrate to the ground. We use a technology that is called interferometry, where we can also detect the height of the trees. And all that together helps us to estimate the volume and the weight, basically, of the wood in the forests.
Often referred to as Earth's green lungs, forests draw in approximately 8 billion tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere annually. However, the ongoing deforestation and degradation, especially in tropical regions, are resulting in the release of this stored carbon back into the atmosphere. And that's all we have for you right now. Thank you for tuning into PSM News. Wish you a pleasant day ahead.